Welcome folks, welcome to my channel. This is Rahul Sukumaran, your host, and if you're here for the first time, this channel talks about career, work and in general about life, and I believe that I would be able to give some direction to all these factors. So if you're here for any of these things, you're here on the right channel. Now, I'll tell you what this video is all about. Now this video is totally an unintentional video. It's not something which I planned. This video came about because of one person in the audience. Poonam, if you're listening to me, I'm talking about you, right? So Poonam asked a question. Poonam asked if FPM is the right choice for her. Now when I thought of this question, I felt that this is not something which only Poonam thinks about. This is something which many of you out there might think about, whether this is the right choice for me. Should I be taking this up? How do I decide that? Now that's a very difficult thing to kind of decide, Nobody can tell you outright like how we can do this, right? So I'm going to be discussing about this video, this particular portion or this particular question in this video. And if you're looking for answers to something like this, please hang on. This is what is coming up. Welcome friends again. So we were talking about how to enter into an academic career through the FPM option that are available at IIMs. And if you have not watched my previous videos, please go and watch them here, because then it would make more sense for you, and you get a better idea of what I'm talking about. Because it's more like one piece of a story, so they're not disconnected, they're like piece of a single story, and you have to go and watch them to actually find out what I'm talking about here. So now coming back to the main point of this video. So the question is FPM or PhD the right choice? Now, like I said, I'm not like some expert coming and telling you how to do things, but I'm telling you what I would have thought of if I were applying for an admission to some place, or if I wanted to study some program, or if I wanted to take up a career. These are some of the things which I would have factored in. And since we are talking about FPM, let's talk specifically about the FPM. And I've made a framework here which I believe can kind of help you in thinking through it. And I want you to look at this and let me know if it kind of makes sense to you at least, right? So if you look at the board here, what I have done is, I have made this framework in such a way that I've split it up into two things. One is a set of external factors which would actually influence your decision whether you would want to take up a particular career or not. And then there are a set of internal factors which are more regarding yourself about whether you want to do this career or not. So let's do them one by one. So starting with the external factors, right? So now, what are the external factors? External is something which is outside, right? At least it is outside your boundary, out of yourself, right? It's outside yourself, right? So now we are looking at a research career. Now if you look at the global scene, right? If you look at universities globally, all the research universities, especially the top ones like Stanford, Harvard, Berkeley, Columbia, some of these Ivy League or some of these top schools across the world, what do they look at? They look at whether they're producing new knowledge. That's what they focus on. It's not just about teaching, or it's not just about placements, which are like more like a focus in India, which were more like a focus in India, right? So that's not the scene. So one of my friends, she graduated from Columbia University last week. So Columbia is like one of the top. It comes amongst one of the top 10 schools in the world, right? And the interesting part is they have no placements, right? That's right. They have no placements. I mean, you must be thinking, some of you must be thinking, how is that possible? We have placements here at IIMs, IITs. Well, that's not how it works globally, right? So what matters over there or across the globe is whether universities can produce research, whether the faculty who are working there and the PhD scholars who are working along with them, can they produce new knowledge and bring it out to the world? That's how it is measured. Now why is this important? Why am I telling you this? Because when we look at the scene in India, in our country, in our very own motherland, right, we have been good. We have produced good institutions like IIMs, IITs, IISc, NIT, a lot of good institutions out there. But we have not been able to make it to the global rankings, the world rankings, where all these top schools across the world come in. Why? It's because there has not been a focus on research, and research is what gets your rank up there, right? So that is why there is a focus that is coming in now even into our country in terms of research. And what does it mean? It means that there would be enough opportunities, there would be enough job opportunities in the term of one, academic careers. There would be more universities and B schools who would want people with a PhD, right? Which means you will have jobs. The other thing, the industry, if you look at the way organizations are evolving because of changes in technology, things like artificial intelligence, machine learning, things like that. and a lot of other influences, the way work is done is being changed, and you have new jobs coming up. For example, you have the analytics, analytics industry, if I could say that, you have jobs that are there in that sector. So as a researcher, you can even find jobs in those sectors because your research skills, your ability to do statistics and other methods and dive deep into a problem, all these things become very important. So it's good news. It's good news for all of us considering a research career, right? So what I'm trying to say, the simple bottom line is that if you're looking for a research career, this is the right time to get in, whether it is academics or whether it is in the corporate. This is the right time for you to move into such a career, and it would be bright. But then see, these are all external factors, right? Now, what is also important is the internal factors. So you have to also figure out, whether you really want to do it, right? Whether this is for you. I mean, is there something in you which clicks when you think about this? That really matters. I mean, like, I could come and say that, okay, Poonam, go and do this, because, there are a lot of jobs out there. Yes, that's good. That's one reason that, most of us, and I mean, let's be honest with ourselves, in a country like India, what we look for when we do a course, we need a job, right? That's the first thing we look at. Our parents, our family, our friends, all of them ask, like, your placements are happening, or like, you have a job, or when will you get a job, or will you move to a better job? So these are the kind of questions that we get asked. So it's just purely normal that we think this way, right? So the point is, what I'm trying to say is, to understand these internal factors, how do we start looking at things? You need to start looking at yourself. You need to do a deeper self-analysis. You need to sit with yourself. And what is it that you need to look at? So I'll tell you two things what you can look at with respect to doing an FPM or a PhD, right? So the first thing is the research potential. So research potential is what I had talked of in the last video. Now, why did I talk about the research potential? Because I believe that people who are trying to get you or trying to take you into the IIM system and make you do a PhD, right, or giving you an opportunity to do a PhD where they give you a full scholarship and they give you grants to do it and they give you the time to do it, they want to see whether you're having that capacity. So understanding whether you have the research potential is the first step. So for those of you who have not watched my previous video, please go and watch it, because it will make more sense, in understanding what I meant by research potential, and like, how you can move through a certain set of steps to understand whether, you have it or not. And so also, like, hang on, don't think like, you just do this for once, like whatever I told in that video, like you tried out once and it didn't work out for you. It does not mean that you're not good. You have to keep trying, right? Repetition is also important. Unless you try again and again. So see, each time you do something, you learn something new out of it. Why? Because you make mistakes, right? You make mistakes and you learn from those mistakes. That's when, you change, you become better. That's what I'm trying to say. So for all your audience out there who are like having this, doubts of whether doing this is right for you or not, this is one thing to look at, do you have the research potential? Now, what is less discussed and what I'm also trying to put forward here is you also have to look at the teaching potential. That's also something which is looked at. So how do I understand? Now you might ask, how do I understand, like, whether I can teach or not? Maybe some of you have taught, you would have taken seminars, or you would have just presented. So this could be some of the ways in which you could figure out. But I'm telling you even a simpler way. If you can just sit with, let's say, one friend of yours, or let's say your sibling, your sister, your brother, like, if you can just sit with them and if you can explain one concept, just one concept to one person, right? Simple mapping, right? One concept to one person. If you can just explain in your own words, you don't have to worry about the language, you don't have to worry about whether you can actually, convey things deeply or correctly or in the right manner. No, not all that. If you can just explain one concept to one person, and if you have a deep desire to do it, so see, this is something which, we all see. If you know some information, people tend to hold on to that information, right? People don't want to kind of tell it because they feel that if I tell this information, something happens, I kind of lose my position, wherever. But this is not true. This is far from the truth. The more you share, the better things become for the other person and also for you, because you learn something and other person might also tell you something. See, we always think that, the person standing on the other side knows lesser than us, which is not true, right? They might know something much more than us, and we might also be able to learn something from them. So what I'm trying to say, the point here is that you need to look at your teaching potential, right? You need to understand whether you have this passion or maybe that's not the right word, but then you have to see whether you have an inclination towards sharing things with people in terms of explaining things to them. So you can just try that. This is a simple way of looking at it. Now, I'll tell you something which is even more important, which is way more important than all of this, and I believe this to be true, right? So, if you look at yourself, right, there is something that is present, which is you understanding yourself as a person as of now, right? And then there is something called the future self, which means what you are 5 years down the line, what you are 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line. So now you might be like what? You might be like in your 20s or maybe in your 30s or whatever, and you might be single and you might not have that much of responsibility under your shoulder, right? Now, let's say in the future you might become a father or a mother, and there are a lot of roles which come into your lives, right? So you keep changing and things keep evolving in you. So we are always like that. So just think, 10 years ago was this, currently what you're doing, is that what you thought you would be doing? Think about it. Maybe not, right? Why? Because our choices keep changing, right? As human beings, we keep seeing new things, and the world also is changing around us. So we see lots of opportunities, and we are okay, maybe I should try that, maybe I should try this, So see, there is nothing wrong in that. That's the way we are. That's the way we are. That's why we are human, right? Because we cannot kind of totally fix on something, like I say, I will do only this. That's not so easy to come across, and probably that's also not the best thing to do, in my opinion, right? Probably I'll tell you why that is in a different set of video series which I'll be making later. So the point is that you need to figure out yourself first. You need to understand what you want right now and what you might want in the immediate future. When I say immediate future, it could be in the next 2 years or the next 5 years. Don't go beyond that. Even 5 years is tough. It's really tough to kind of say what you'll do in the next 5 years. But then try to make that plan. Where do you want to see yourself in the next 5 years? And if you try doing that, if you look at where do you want to move into the future and then work backwards, you'll be able to figure out what all you have to do right now, right? So I'm just hoping that I was able to solve some of your doubts out there. I know that many of you have more and more questions like this, because I believe me, friends, brothers and sisters, I was exactly like you. Probably I was even worse than you. I always had questions like this in my mind: why I should do this, why I should not do that, how can I move forward, what is it that I should do, what is it that I truly enjoy doing. These are questions which always kind of hit me and still hits me, right? So we are all explorers in the process of life, right? And I hope that I was able to explain something to you which made sense. And if you believe that you want to see more videos like this, and if you want more content from me like this, please let me know. And in the next video, as promised in the last video, I would be talking about what are the expectations from you post the FPM program. Like I said, I made this video totally unintentionally because one of the person in my audience wanted it, and I felt it's an important question to answer. That's why I made a full video out of it instead of simply leaving a comment, right? So I want more of you to do that. Poonam, Vipul, all these people who have taken the steps to come forward and write something and ask me questions. It makes a lot more sense, because sometimes some questions don't strike you, right? Because you're way ahead in the program. So if you ask these questions, I'll be able to kind of specifically answer it for you, and that would make a lot of difference to a lot of people out there. So this is Rahul Sukumaran, trying to transform and change your lives and careers. So if you like what you see, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you, people.